Hey, hey, welcome in. It's Preps to Olympians. All right, Sports Stories with Denny Lennon. We go live at 5 and looking forward to having you on board for today. We have Etop Udo Ema, legendary figure in club basketball today. It's going to be great. It's going to be a great show, a lot of information. Hope you're buckled in because we got a legend on the show. Hey, today, 110 years ago, John Wooden was born, legendary UCLA basketball coach of 10 championships in 12 years. Yep, that's the guy. He did so much more than a great coach. He left an important legacy to all of us. And I love this quote from him. You can't live a perfect day without doing something for someone who will never be able to repay you. That is a great quote for today.
Thank you, Mike.
Let's get it started. I'm a Venice, California-born, Los Angeles-based sports fan, one that has played, coached, announced, and promoted sports my whole life. My love affair with sports started in my own backyard and has led me to this podcast. Thanks to the support of the Amateur Athletic Union in East Bay, I'm excited to bring you Sports Stories with Denny Lennon.
Sports Stories with Denny Lennon aims to bring its subscribers interesting, unique, and uplifting stories. You can find us at sportstoriespodcast.com. We drop audio and video podcasts every Thursday and go live on YouTube Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Many guests have shared their stories with host Denny Lennon, such as Super Bowl and BCS champions Brendan Ion Badejo, Peter Boulware, and Trevor Lawrence, three-time Olympic gold medalist Karch Karai, Kentucky Derby winner Doug O'Neill, NCAA champions Toby Bailey and St. John Smith, Hall of Famers Jimmy Lennon Jr., Rudy Tomjanovich, world champions Boom Boom Mancini and Tim Leary, AAU Sullivan Award winners Catherine Plummer, Sabrina Ionescu, and Spencer Lee, not to mention the head honcho, AAU President Dr. Roger Gowdy. We've also had best-selling authors Wesley King and Wayne Coffey, and our Sports Stories favorite, Norm Bass, the first African-American to play two professional sports post-World War II. Become a friend of the show on Patreon, and you can help keep the dream alive. Go to patreon.com/Denny Lennon or go to our website to see all of our social media links. If you have an interesting, unique, or uplifting story to tell, contact us on sportsstoriespodcast.com.
Coming to you live from Los Angeles. We're in the shadow of LAX. It's a top-rated video podcast in the Centinela Adobe Corridor. It's where we share a wall with the Korean United Methodist, and you can see St. Jerome Church from our back porch. We're in the 7428 studio where Jimbo and Marley run the show, and Buck kicks back until he's got to kick it out. It's SSDL Live at 5 on YouTube.
I just said happy birthday. I'm going to tell you.
Okay. Hey, it's a happy birthday. And we got champions. We got all kinds of stuff going on. Hey, all right. Marley's at the switches. Christine's overlooking. She's like the executive producer today. All right. Etop Udo Ema. I knew I dropped that at one point. But really excited to have him on. And this should be a great show. Hey, want to let everybody know. Jump on board if you like in live chat. You could also call into the show. We'll run the numbers soon enough. Is my family here? How about my St. Mark and St. Bernard people? How about my VBC and AAUers? Important that we have you all in for the big show today. Top 5 states outside of California that are logging in to the show. Oklahoma, there it is. Gary and Mary running the old fan club out there. Tennessee, that's new. Arizona, Indiana, that's where Coach Wooden was born. And Ohio, always coming strong on the show. All right, hey, yes, we ran that up for a short moment, but these are members of the SSDL family. We'd like to wish happy birthday to today. We embrace the legacy of Coach John Wooden. Craig Impleman has been on the show, his grandson-in-law often. Jake Downey, that's Big Game Jake. It's his birthday today. Bill Jimbo, the legend. That's Christine's father. So happy birthday to Bill. And Eric Helwig, a new fan of the show. He's a comedian who was on our show last week, set some new boundaries for language and behavior on the show. He did. He's really stretched it out. All right. Those are happy birthdays. How about this? Yeah. You know what? It might be the Preps to Olympians show, but number 17 from the beautiful Los Angeles Lakers, a Lakers franchise catching the Celtics with 17. Gotta love that. All right, we're doing okay. We're off and running. Yeah, that's why we're hanging. Well, we were hanging the Lakers banner, but it came down because that's what happens on our show almost all the time. It does it all the time. Okay. Hey, that said, how about we go into up this week?
There you go.
All right. Never Seen LA. We every Tuesday we go check out Jonas Never's work, the great LA muralist, world famous. This week it was for Hispanic Heritage. It was commissioned by Peacock TV for a True Colors show. So it was a mixture of young and old, those that have made their impact in Hispanic culture. It was great, and that was a fun run. Okay.
Go back to it. There you go.
Oh, there they are. Yep, I like finishing with A-Rod. A-Rod, elite member. Okay. We drop tomorrow, part 2, story of the Volleyball Festival, the sporting event that changed junior volleyball, if not junior sports, forever. That's Dave Epperson. Dave Epperson, kind enough to welcome us in his home. So we'll drop that. Hey, we're always talking about Denny on people's episodes. Been on a few lately. So podcast episodes. Yep, that's right. So if you want to check any or all of those out, please do. Okay, the Friday Happy Hour show. We're going to have on Josh Lozano. He is a gambling expert out of Las Vegas. We figured after Hellwig last week set some new boundaries for us as far as behavior goes. We could dive into gambling. We're going to have to learn a little bit about it and see what's going on. So that's what's this week on DL. That's our executive producer making sure the Lakers' 17th NBA championship banner is hanging appropriately. All right. Way to go. It's up and running. Okay, we catch up on everything. How about Twitter, Marley?
All right.
Let's catch up on our Twitter. Hey, doing what I can. And I mean, I'm not as significant as our guest tonight on social media, but we do have polls. And this SSDL poll, I got a few different questions. Okay, so how about who's the top AD in LA? Who's your favorite AD? Are you going with the AD that just won, Anthony Davis, just won a title? You're going with Anthony Davis from USC in the 1970s, 2 national titles in football and 3 in baseball. That was my pick, as you can tell. I was pushing. So that's kind of a fun one. How about better catch, Bellinger against the Padres, or say, hey, kid, Willie Mays deep in the outfield. And we are asking your input on Game 7, Karch versus St. John, to decide who's the king of the beach. Okay, we are moving right along. Right, Marley?
Yeah.
Yeah, we get to introduce our guests.
Totally. Everyone go subscribe to Denny or follow Denny on Twitter.
Yep, please do. Etop Udo Ema is our guest. We always bring on a significant guest with a montage. How about a video one?
As a community, as an organization, we want to make sure we share our message to the world. Part of that message is, again, us bridging the gap with the relationships that we have with police officers. Let's hit social media hard and make them hear our message.
And I was like, when I was a kid, like on the west side of Compton, we really didn't have anything really fun. Let's just do a fun day for the kids. And really, he came up with this concept. The Prince of Compton, Bernard Burrell. Just headed over to McKinley Elementary School. About to do our first Create a Legacy drop-off. Got tons of books for the kids, all ages. PE equipment, soccer balls, basketballs, footballs, hula hoops, frisbees, playground balls, just serving our community and trying to help these kids.
That guy is killing it on social media, and he's killing it in the community, giving back with his world-recognized brand. It really is. So let's bring him on. How you doing there, Etop?
Doing great. How are you guys doing?
Doing all right. I've only butchered your name once. Hope I could just go with Top moving forward if you're good with that. Okay, good. And you call me Denny because my full name's Dennis, but that's only my mom would use that when she was upset with me.
Okay, Dennis.
Nice. Hey, so now we're certainly going to get into what you're doing now and what you've achieved, but I want to go back to your high school days where you're putting up 18 and 10 for Chaparral in Scottsdale, Arizona. And tell me a little bit about what got you involved in athletics and basketball in particular when you were growing up.
So actually, I went to my first 2 years in high school in Norwalk, Connecticut. So I'm from back east. My dad got transferred to Phoenix, and I spent my last 2 years. And we actually lived in Phoenix, but I checked in the Chaparral because at the time they had the better players. And then from there, I went to UC Irvine, and I played college at UCI. So, you know, my parents always had me in all the sports. I played soccer, baseball, tennis, football. But when I got to high school, obviously you had to hone in on one of the sports if you wanted to get a scholarship. So obviously that's like all kids' goals is to get a scholarship. So I was playing football, baseball, basketball. And then when I got to high school, I felt that basketball was my best pathway, and I like basketball the most. So I stuck with hoops.
Yeah. You serve as a mentor to so many young men. I'm wondering, was there somebody that kind of stuck out in your life when you were young, somebody that guided you outside of your family that you looked up to?
Now, the funny thing is my dad is my adopted father is Nigerian. So if you know anything about Nigerians, that's what the name is from. They're all about academics. So my dad wasn't in hoops. You know, never really pushed me academically, not athletically. So I was kind of out there on my own, which is one of the reasons I do what I do today, because I felt when I was younger, if I would have had someone like me, that would have gave me even a better shot at doing what I wanted to do. So that's one of the reasons I do what I do.
Oh, nice. What about this sense of giving back to community? And we'll get into that a little bit, but I just found that interesting. That had to be modeled for you somewhere.
Yeah. So when I graduated from college, I went to work, and then my college roommate, Rod Palmer, who played at Dominguez High School, went to UCLA, transferred to Irvine, and we were college roommates at Irvine, and we became roommates after college. He was born in Compton, born and raised, and when we first got out of college, our coach offered us the Compton High job in 1993. So when we got offered that job, what happened was we just got thrown into social work, you know? So it was like we didn't have good players. I mean, we didn't have super talented guys. Dominguez at the time had very talented players. They had, you know, Tayshaun Prince, Tyson Chandler, Tommy Prince, Kenny Bruner, Jason Thomas, all these big-time players. And we were just trying to fight to keep up. And we started to get good players later in the mid-'90s. But again, we were just in the community doing social work. We both had jobs. He was a teacher, and I worked in the financial sector. And at night, we just dealt with the kids and did whatever we could to help these kids, you know, move forward. So that's kind of what started that. Because the beginning stages of the Compton Magic, it was a case study. It wasn't what you see today. Yeah,
Rod Palmer. Now I remember when he played basketball at UCLA, but wasn't his sister? Isn't his sister Violet Palmer that was like the first NBA female referee? Yeah. Oh, okay. I didn't know if it was cousin or I knew it was related. So it was a sister, huh? Oh, wow. So you know, I learned something. I was running a couple of different Catholic schools programs. One of which I was asked to. It was like a sister school to this one, and it was St. Lawrence Brindisi, and it's a corner of Century and Compton in there. And I grew up in Venice, California, and it's a pretty diverse place and so forth. But I learned an awful lot working with those young people and about the challenges they have. And they were, you know, I was less than 10 miles away from them, but really learning so much more about them by working directly with them. Did you kind of have the same curve as far as, you know, learning about who these young people were and in their environment?
Yeah, well, you know, I come from similar environments when I was little, but so it was easy for me to, you know, get into Compton, and I wasn't from Compton, but my roommate was. So when I was at Irvine, you know, I was far away from home. So whenever Thanksgiving happened, whenever Christmas happened, I would go to Compton with Rod. So, you know, I didn't really know California. That was my first time coming to California when I went to Irvine. So really all I knew in California was Compton, because whenever I went home for the holidays, I went home with Rod. So, you know, I got acclimated, and those were the crazy times back then. If you remember, that was NWA, that was gang banging was heavy. You know, it was challenging times back then. So, you know, I had to learn quick on what was going on, because you better know your surroundings when you're in those type of areas. But, you know, those kids, they grow up so much different than me and you probably did. And they have, you know, crazy challenges. There's so many stories I can tell you from the 30 years I've been doing this. You know, and a lot of that, the first 15 years, we had all Compton kids only. Like now we have kids from all over. But from 93 until I would say 2005-ish, we were a local program with Compton kids, mostly all city kids. And, you know, the challenges of the Compton kids are obviously a lot different than challenges of a kid from Venice, you know?
Yeah, it was. It was. I mean, we, you know, like I said, we had a diverse background, but we didn't have to do things like stay below the window line when we got home. And we weren't worried about, you know, like they've always wanted to stay as long as they could, but then, you know, boom, before dark, they would just, you know, bust out. And just all of those, you know, little things that we took for granted as kids growing up, that I took for granted as kids growing up, that you just really learn. And it was an important learning curve for me. And I suppose that's why I was really moved by a lot of the videos I see of what you're doing, giving back to the community, not just what you're doing, but what you're teaching your young men to do. Yeah. And that's really important. That's an important, you know, that's something that has to be developed. So around 93, I guess, when you got involved with the AAU in basketball, I was 94, a partner and we started beach volleyball for the Amateur Athletic Union as a way for juniors to have somewhere to play. They didn't have to play against adults. And so I kind of was throwing that out because we probably both been familiar with the AAU since then. A lot of people only know AAU as basketball. They're surprised to hear that they do volleyball and they do swimming and they do track and field and so forth. But this is an old organization. At this point, though, it seems like AAU is used kind of like Kleenexes for tissue, or AAU's, you know, like jacuzzi is when you mean spa. It's used across the board. Can you talk a little bit about how AAU morphed into then what became these shoe leagues in effect? Can you talk a little bit about how that, because you were right there in the middle of it.
So we'll go back to the 90s when, like, we first started. And again, we were a high school team. Like, we started Compton Magic not really to be an AAU team. We just wanted to have our high school kids together during the spring and summer. We were trying to protect them. So we were trying to keep them off the streets. And we decided to keep our high school team together year round. So we really didn't do it for to become this AAU power or whatever you want to call it. We did it to protect our kids, to be a better high school team, to keep our kids off the streets, and it was pretty much a case study. So fast forward to the 90s, you'll know there wasn't many AAU teams. I mean, they had Riverside Church, you had Pat Barrett, SCA, the Pumps were just coming along at the time. So there wasn't many teams that were out there. So all the top kids all played on those one or two teams. Nationally, there weren't that many teams. So you'll hear about all these superpower teams in the late 90s, the Atlanta Celtics, all these teams, Riverside Church, and then the early 2000s when you have all these superpower teams, because there wasn't many sponsored teams at the time. So fast forward into mid 2000s, and remember back then in the 90s and in the early 2000s, AAU was real prevalent because, like, you played AAU, you played BCI. There was BCI in Arizona. There was AAU, and then there was like Izzy Washington. You remember? Yeah. Rest in peace. There was Izzy Washington, and Izzy was big. Then the Pumps kind of came in, and they had their little thing, but there still wasn't a unique circuit. It was just kind of like it was fragmented. So then come early 2000s, the shoe companies started to get more involved. And started to do their own thing, started sponsoring more teams, started putting more money into kids. And that's when I think you start to see the expansion of what they call AAU. I call it grassroots. My job at Adidas is West Coast grassroots manager, but I call it grassroots. But the expansion of that term AAU, which now you have at the time Nike and Adidas, and it was Reebok for a minute, putting resources and a lot more resources that have been involved in the 90s into youth and into basketball and other sports as well. So people like to coin the term AAU, I think, just because it's a really broad term. AAU, if you obviously, you're wearing the shirt, but it encompasses all sports. AAU, badminton, tennis, football, basketball.
Don't forget clogging.
Yeah, probably all those sports, fencing, who knows? But it incorporates all these sports. And really, I know a lot about AAU because AAU really was an insurance term. So AAU, what you do when you're in AAU, right? You have your team, and AAU is the insurance policy you use to insure your kids as a group, right? And it really was a big insurance thing. So that's when the shoe companies came in. It changed the whole game because now you have a team, like let's just say Pat Barrett, for instance, when he was good with Kevin Love and Brandon Jennings, and the shoe company is giving him 6 figures. I mean, like he's giving him money to travel, he's giving him money to, he's giving him product, and what kind of advantage is that going to give somebody when they have those kind of resources to deal with kids, families? A lot of these families are poor, and it gives you an advantage.
And I look at that as I look at that as important upward mobility for a lot of people who didn't have that because, I mean, even when I played at St. Bernard High School near in Playa del Rey. Okay, so I went there because
my Compton Magic coach is the head coach there now.
Okay. All right. See? All right. Class of 82 right here. As a matter of fact, I think Izzy Washington's either son or nephew or something was Chris Washington, who was there when I was there.
Yep. Chris Washington.
Hey, when I played, I fouled all those guys. Like I knew I had 5 fouls and I gave them up. So it was interesting because you would play that and your only other opportunity for like YMCA, Park and Rec, and I often would go down and play at Venice Beach. I mean, those were the only times. And then, this whole dynamic kind of started to change where there's these more opportunities for young people. And I always saw it as a way of being able to raise the game and also to get more opportunities for kids who might not ever be seen if their high school coach was also like, a PE teacher and also coached some other sports and they didn't have time to reach out and help them get to college, which is a really important part of what you're doing by being able to, do this all in effect at this point full time. Right.
And it's like, I think like for me, the reason we've been pretty successful is that I'm dialed in with my high school coaches. I'm not trying to like do what some of these other guys do and, go get the player, but not deal with the high school coach. Or when the college coaches come, make them call me and not have them, do their due diligence with their high school coach. It's an important part of the evolution of what we're trying to do when you're successful with kids and successful with your program. I think that high school coach, AAU coach relationship has to get better. And as it does get better, things will get better in youth sports. We have a lot of issues. And even now with this COVID thing and the way they're going to do the California season, there's going to be some crazy issues with this high school and AAU. And I call it grassroots or travel.
Right.
It's going to get very challenging because, they've empowered really in grassroots. The NCAA has empowered us to have the viewing periods pretty much. I mean, so we have the spring viewing period and the rest of the country will be playing normally. Like they'll play their normal high school season and then they're going to all be out in the spring during those live periods. California will be one of the only states playing high school basketball. It's going to be interesting to see how that works because you'll have all the coaches that are going to be at those Nike Adidas events in the spring. The California high school kids are going to have to make a choice. They haven't played in front of coaches in 2 years. And this is their life. This is their trying to get a scholarship and trying to market themselves and trying to move forward. So it's going to be a very interesting time in California if the calendar stays the same.
Because, that's continued to move. I've had, Eric Sondheimer often comes on here and he kind of breaks it down for us, the columnist from the LA Times. Yep. He breaks it. But, he also, I think, kind of agree. It's like, okay, this is the plan for now. Like, this is what we think is going to happen. Something we did with beach volleyball, we were able to pull off the national championships and then also the Junior Olympics in beach volleyball, both by creating in effect the closest we could to a bubble, without we, temperature checked, limited spectators, only the coaches and players, and went over social distance. Did you do something similar with the called Compton bubble? I heard
we did. So what we did was our kids obviously were dying to play, and we have some of the better players. A lot of them, most of them were committed, but they hadn't played all spring and summer, so we were just trying to find as safe an environment as possible, that we can get our kids in the gym, even though, I think we were still in the black stage of your black or purple in COVID, which means you're not supposed to have indoor stuff going on. But what we did was we had our alumni come in, play against our current kids, and we brought the media. So it was an invite-only event, and we just kind of let the kids play. But what we wanted to do also in our bubble is we wanted to also make sure that we put a message out to the world. So we did a lot of messaging. It was kind of a mini protest. And we played some basketball, which was awesome because we had all the media there and they were all competing to see who could do the best pictures, who could do the best videos.
All right.
Ended up being a major success as far as messaging is concerned, because obviously we have some pretty popular players, and when they're getting their pictures and their videos, I want to say we had 100 million hits on that event, which is, it was crazy. It was nuts. So
wow. Did you have that? I think Marley has a little video on that. Let's show that for just a second here. Yeah. So I'm glad we got a chance to show that for a couple of reasons. One, it was, it was great the way you're able to handle that, but also your expertise in branding is admirable. Where did that come from? Because, I mean, I think both of us did not grow up where that was second nature to us, like kids today are growing up. Did you at some point just see that, okay, this is how you do the business? Well,
it's crazy you ask that, because I always tell people, like, I've been at Adidas for 20 years now, 19 years, 20 years, might be 19 or 20. But I've been fortunate enough to kind of work for the company for the last 5. And I've got a chance to really see on the inside, how we do events, kind of the way they want it to look. They call it the Monday after your presentation, after your event. There's like all the things that corporate wants to see when you do your events. So I've learned a lot just through going through the ins and outs of Adidas. Also, just when social media came into play in 2011, 2010, and it became a new thing, we were in the forefront of it. We kind of jumped in and saw the value in it. And, if you look at it right now, as far as following and as far as impact, AAU-wise, and I would say even nationally, we're probably on social media. I don't think anyone is close to us on social media as far as following and impact is concerned. And that's because we made it something that we were going to do when it happened, and we jumped on it, and we've kept following through with it. And it's very important, because you'll know that like things have changed and the market's changed, and if you're not in tune with what's going on in the market, it's going to be hard for you to get resources for the kids. The ultimate goal is to get resources so you can help more kids, help more people. And, social media now, hate it or love it, is a major part of you being able to acquire those resources.
Yeah. And we're gonna copy everything you guys do, because that's the best thing you do when you come in. Like as a coach, you find out who's the best coach, who's running the best program, and then copy them as you develop your own style. And we've been watching your stuff, and we're like, this is really slick. Like, it's really good. To talk a little bit about about your approach with your players and how they use social media, because I don't think you don't necessarily encourage them to just jump on there and do anything. It seems like you want them to have and make sure that they're putting a statement forward, that they're representing themselves appropriately.
Well, also too, you know, like it's crazy because ultimately when you have a team, you're going to have, you know, 10 kids. All 10 of these kids and parents, obviously they want to be the best they can be. They want the most for their individual brand. You're trying to make their brand as good as it can be in a team setting. So you have all these players who you're trying to maximize everybody's brand and keep them happy, but also play in a team environment and keep your parents happy, your kids happy, your locker room happy. That's the one thing I think we've done a good job of is, you know, basically from 1 to 10, whether it's Evan Mobley, who's the #1 player in the country, you know, all the way to Devin Tillis, who's at UNLV. You know, we're fighting for all those kids, and our reputation in the street is kind of like, that's what we do. We're fighting for the #1 kid. We're fighting for the #9 kid, all the same. And it's important though that you really emphasize that you are fighting for their brands individually. You're fighting to build everybody's brand. And as you build everyone's individual brand, your brand collectively will increase, right? And some kids have more shine than others. Some kids are going to be ranked higher. Some kids are going to be more popular, whatever that may be. But I just make sure that they don't outwork me. So like when I see what they got going on, like I'm just all over them, social media, all of our kids, whoever it is, whoever it may be. And we just really work it. And it has really proved to do us very well as far as where we're positioned in the grassroots space.
I found a article from Justin Vargas on the show Basketball, I think it's called. It's a brand. He says it's a brand that's grown beyond basketball. Everybody knows Compton Magic. Everybody knows Uncle Tote. And then he talks about you first bumping into him, and he says that you gave him the advice, just always build your program from a culture perspective. If you have the culture, kids will always want to be part of it. That's, you know, it sounds like, well, yeah, you know, now, but it's not that easy when you're trying to build an athletic program or, you know, a team culture to stay on top and to make sure that everybody's pointing in the right direction. Did you just learn this on the job? Did you watch other people that had built a culture? How did you find your brand, your message?
So Denny, the thing with me was again, when I first started, I had no intentions of being this. I had a job. I'm not one of those guys that was just doing basketball to make a living. I did it because I loved it. So I had a passion for it. And I would do it if I didn't make any money, if I didn't have tournaments, if these things weren't the way they are now, I would still do this because I have a really unique passion for it. But for me, I always just did baby steps. I never like try to outdo myself or go faster than I was ready to go. Back in the early 2000s when the Pumps, and I used to work for the Pumps in the 90s, and like I kind of saw that operation from the inside. And then when I went to when I was just starting in early 2000s, that's when Pat Barrett was really good, and they had Tyson Chandler, and the Pumps were good. And I just watched from afar. I didn't want to do things the way they did them. I wanted to do them my own way. It might have taken me a little bit longer, but I just walked through my process instead of trying to run. And I never made any decisions that weren't right for me. Obviously, I've had many opportunities and many proposals to do all kind of goofy stuff. Never did them. It wasn't right for me, and I just walked through the process and waited for my time. And what I did was I took little bits and pieces. I watched Pat Barrett's great teams closely. I was there. I was at those games when they're, you know, beating OJ Mayo and beating Derrick Rose. I was there in Vegas, paying attention, watching what they did. They had their trainers and they had their charter buses, and I was watching that. And we do charter buses now. I took that from him.
Yeah.
And I was watching how the Pumps did stuff with their kids and how they, you know, brought kids in. And I was just watching everyone who was doing it good, who was doing it at a high level, watching them close, the Celtics. And then when I was ready and I had my talent, I knew how I wanted to do things. And that started in 2007. 2008, we were top 5 in the country, went to the championship, lost in triple overtime. But 2007 and 8 is when it really started, and we haven't looked back since. We're on a run.
No,
run's crazy, and the run is going to be even more crazy right now. The run is going to be crazy.
Yeah, what's coming up is ridiculous. You're going to have, 4 or 5 that are going to be in the draft within either next year or the next 2 years. But before we get to that, I think one of the things I hear often, and I can tell from the way you approach things, is everybody on your team is vital and important. And it's acknowledged that some people are here and some people are here, but everybody on that team. And I think sometimes what's lost is outside people say, well, that kid, they didn't make pro, so this was all for naught. Or, okay, well, he puts in all that time. What sacrifice? And what they forget is how important it is to grow up and how important it is to remember to be on time, to be accountable to a group, to carry yourself appropriately for the brand. And all of to pack your bag the night before. Little things like that are so important as a part of growing up. And I think you pay a lot of attention to that with everybody that's on your team.
Hey, let me jump in there and say something real quick. A lot of our kids, check this out, man. A lot of our kids have never flown, have never been out of town. I mean, I can tell you kids we had in Compton that, they'll give you a testimonial and say, you know what, man, when I got into Compton Magic is the first time that I ever saw the world outside of my neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? That's a whole different life. I mean, I have kids that have their degrees that are from Compton that have never left a 10-mile radius.
Mm-hmm.
So now you're talking about like this kid now is a functional citizen. If he doesn't do that, who knows what he's doing? We don't know, right? So there's so many things like that go on with these little kids that we don't know. Like we're fortunate. Like we were more fortunate. Like even my dad, we were poor at first, but then he started getting better jobs. And as I got to high school, we weren't poor anymore. So, I know what that is, but I didn't have to. I was never starving.
Mm-hmm.
And I was also traveled pretty well, even though my dad got transferred all the time. So we moved a lot. I lived in Lexington, Kentucky. I lived in Dallas, Texas. I lived in Norwalk, Connecticut. I lived in Phoenix, Arizona, and I lived in California. So we were well traveled. I was still pretty well traveled. I've seen things. My eyes had seen things. And it's different when your eyes don't see things. When you have stuff in a box, especially in a box that's just like a cage and you got all kind of crazy stuff going on around you. So there's so many kids that this experience changes the way they see things, and it's called hope.
Yeah, it is called hope. It is. And you bring that back directly to the community. We've posted on our very limited social media output, but we posted some of those, and they got such a positive response about you going back in the community, and whether you're giving back books or sporting equipment or just having some fun with the kids. I think that's important. I think that opens their eyes because they look up to those kids that are coming in and those of you that are coming in to provide those. And you got to impress that upon your players, how important it is, how they carry themselves for those young people. Can you talk a little bit like when did you first realize how important it was to give back? And when did you start to see this, develop into something that was your calling card?
So we had always given back from day one because we were just in the hood, and we weren't even like looking at this thing like a AAU program that gets sponsored. We didn't care. We were just really trying to help kids the whole way through. Now, once we started having some resources, 2010 to 2000 until now, we made a concerted effort in 2013 because we were already doing very well basketball-wise. We were the national team of the year in 2013. And I sat back and I said, how can we impact more kids outside of basketball? We made a concerted effort to really put more work in the community in 2013. So what we did was we said, you know what, we're going to, as soon as we're done in August with our season, from September all the way to January 1st, that's all community service. And like when you start doing community service, you'll find that like our first project we did was in Santana Block in Compton at the Salvation Army. And I really didn't go in there. I didn't know what they had going on in there. I went in there to help one of my friends get the gym to practice in. And when I went in there, I saw that, if you know Salvation Army's church. Salvation Army has computer labs. They have all these different things that they do. So when I went in there, they were cooking. And I was like, what are you guys doing there? And they're like, we have a thing called the Love Kitchen. And I was like, what is that? And they're like, we feed the homeless every Monday, hot meal. And then we also give them a sack lunch on Wednesdays. So I was like, wow, that's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like, I didn't even know they did that there. I just was there trying to get the gym, and I saw all these different things that they did. And at that moment, I jumped my whole company in, and we start sponsoring the whole program. Had my kids come down and feed the kids, feed the homeless, but that was just something we just jumped in and did it. And when you start doing that, what happens is you go in and you meet all these people who are volunteering, and all these volunteers, they have all their little nonprofits. So once you jump in and start doing community work, great community work will find you.
Yeah,
you can find things that, like, I always want to do community work that made sense for me, and I always wanted to be hands-on. I didn't want to just write a check. I didn't want to just, go and just give. I wanted something that we really had our hands on. So the funny thing is, we started doing the Feed the Homeless, and we put it on our social media, and, we got donations for the Salvation Army just off our social media. Like, people were donating money, just seeing our stuff on social media. So some people are like, well, why are you posting when you guys do? You should just do the work, not post it. I go, well, I'm posting it to motivate you to do something.
Yeah.
You're mad at me. You're hating on us anyway. So you're going to have to do something.
Yeah.
And the crazy thing was, like, through social media, like, there was all kind of donations coming in, and we would just have them write the check to the Salvation Army. So my point to you is that, now it's like we've kind of set the tone in AAU. Like, no one's really doing it before us. Like, we've been doing it for a minute, and we do it good, and we know what we're doing. We know where we're going. We know what we're trying to do. And everyone else is trying to figure it out, but we're kind of a step ahead of everybody. But the thing is that now it's becoming a prerequisite of AAU. Like, now people are like, you guys are in the neighborhood dealing with these kids. Well, how come you're not giving back to the neighborhood?
That's right. AAU cares. That's my guy. Roger Gowdy is the president now. I've been a lifetime friend with him, but Joe Gura has been put in charge of that, who's the second vice president. And it's great that they're doing this. It doesn't matter how they get to that point. It matters that they get to that point and start to do it. And it's needed now so much more than ever. What the Salvation Army, might do in your area, out here, like the YMCA is that place in my area. And I'm seeing some of the seniors on the street lately that aren't able to have not that social component, not that place where they kind of like, resurrect themselves. And it's such a dangerous time. So when we started doing our video podcast, we immediately embraced the Heroes Movement, which reaches out to all veterans and gives them a workout that allows them to keep exercise. And that's nationwide. And then my sister, who I'm so proud of, my sister Janine, she runs something called My Stuffed Bags. And they reach out to kids that are in crisis situations with a bag, right? And so the second we started to link ourselves up with them, we found our audience starting to grow and to become more socially concerned. And that's what you're doing at such a high level with these young men who are now going to go into these higher profile situations and carry that same type of attitude and that kind of legacy.
Think of this, Denny. It's like this too. It's like, imagine this. So you have thousands of AAU teams, thousands, maybe tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of AAU teams all over the country. You have mom and dad teams, mom and pop teams, all these different teams. So, like, we went on social media and we were just doing just so much community work. We were doing diaper drives, book drives, Feed the Homeless. We were doing a ton and just bombarding social media with the work. And what happened is that everyone else started kind of doing their little things. Now, even to do work in the community, you don't have to have money. That's the point. Like, it's awesome if you have some. We had a little bit and we were spending money, but like, you don't have to. And my thing I was telling everybody, like, because I talked to our teams at Adidas, and I'm like, you guys don't have to have a big budget to do community work. You can go in the community and do a lot of work and do a lot of good without money. So that basically means all you got to do is put time in. There's no excuse.
Right.
No excuse.
That's right.
So I'm just telling you, like, the great thing, but I think the trend that we started was that now, like, almost every AAU team, you better be doing something. That's a great, whatever it is, that's a great thing. Hate it or love it, it's a great thing. Because even if it's not much, you're still doing something, and you're being conscious of doing something.
That's right. Now we're gonna play this next little video where you just had a fun day, and I like kind of how you came to it, which was like, you had given books, you've given equipment, and then I think your buddy was just like, hey, back in the day we used to just like, we need some fun, and guys just go in and have some fun with the kids, and I think what you talk about is like, it's hope, because I could see it, and I just like the love that's shown here.
Yeah.
There's more.
We have this whole Create a Legacy program that we're doing in Compton. You guys came to the first drop-off. We did a PE supplies giveaway and book drive. It was dope. McKinley, Mayo, Tibby. And we were in the office one day, and Bernard was like, you know, when I was a kid, like on the west side of Compton, we really didn't have anything really fun. Let's just do a fun day for the kids. And really, he came up with this concept. The Prince of Compton, Bernard Burrell.
That is just being involved with those, because we came up through schools. My wife's an educator, and those days, some people look at them and go, yeah, they were just screwing around all day. It's not. It opens your mind, and it's so much fun for kids to have that time to have fun. Adults are having fun with them, and I think it opens their mind to being to embracing life more. And
listen, before I forget, because I want to say this is at Tibby Elementary in Compton. And you have to realize, like, that day we fed the kids, we cooked, we bought pizza. Like, a lot of those kids are at school to eat.
Mm-hmm.
See, you have to realize most of Compton Unified is a free and reduced lunch district. It's like 99% Medi-Cal.
Yeah.
You guys got to realize the things that are given for us aren't given for those kids in that playground you saw that day. Like, those kids, like, I would say, 80% of them or more are going to school to eat. Free meal. So, like, there's so much more into that day than just running around and playing in costumes, and also giving their imagination. We brought the face painters in and everything else to hopefully, just go into their imagination. I mean, there's so many things that these kids do not get. We have a Create a Legacy program with Tibby, McKinley and Compton and Mayo, and we want to do more schools. We just can't afford to do it, and we're working on that. But it's like, at that age is when they're impressionable. At that age is where you can make change, and at that age is where we have to show them things. Because the kids that we're talking about here, like at Tibby, like those kids you saw, like, there's not much hope in those communities. It's not much, and these are the kind of activities and exercises that you can do to open their eyes up to different things. Obviously, I wish we had more of a budget to do more. But our budget, that was the only school we could do the big fun day at with the budget that we had. I'm working on that. But again, like, there's so many things. Like, we're really in these schools. Like, we did book drives there. We've done all kind of things at these elementaries. And it's crazy, man. I went in there and I asked them, I said, hey, I asked the principals, what do you need? And they said, PE equipment. We don't have a basketball. We don't have a soccer ball. We don't have tether balls. They don't even have them at all. So we went and just bought them, and that was major. Like, they don't have any sports equipment for when they play. None of this. That's how crazy this is. Like, the things we hope for. I mean, like, you'd be surprised at the little things that you can do. We went into another Rosecrans Elementary, and we just brought them books. And when I tell you those kids were going crazy over the books, they were fighting over the books. They don't even have books there.
My goodness.
And on top of the fighting over the books, like, I'm signing autographs. Like, they're like trying to get my autograph for bringing books. It's crazy. When you get down to the poverty line, you'd be surprised.
From where I sit right now, the Lenox School District is right next door, and they're dealing with so many of those same issues. And it's just what they see too. Their schools resemble something different than a school, just from their own visual. and we really got to all, we all got to be conscious of this, because this is our next generation. One of the things you're certainly doing is providing this different type of economic opportunity for these young people that are coming through your sport. And I find one of the things that's maddening is how little contact they can actually have with people like a financial planner or even just an agent to evaluate their potential worth. And then when they do finally get to the NBA or into some situation, it's like that planner, that financial planner isn't going to necessarily want to say no to them, because I don't have a long-term relationship. And I don't know how this changes, because, I like the fact that the NCAA finally maybe coming around to letting them use their likeness for some kind of income, but what else, can be done to kind of change this archaic structure?
So, it's funny you say that, Denny, because I'm living it with Onyeka Okongwu right now. So right. Onyeka is going to be top 10 in this draft. He is a one-and-done player at USC. Mm-hmm. He is an unbelievable kid and an unbelievable human being. Mm-hmm. Comes from an unbelievable family. And that's where it all starts. I think a lot of these guys, the ones that you see that get in trouble financially, that get in trouble in all these different ways, is really because a lot of that structure is diluted and tainted when they get to this point. And then at that point, when the social economic piece comes in, people think they're going to get some money, and everyone loses their mind. Mm-hmm. Like with Onyeka, the awesome part is his mother is solid. She didn't even want him to go in the draft. And he is solid, and he'll always be solid regardless of, who he picked as his financial guy. He picked a great financial guy, a guy named Humble, awesome guy. And he picked a really good agent as well. But that's probably because he's solid. That's because he's got a good feel. He's got good background upbringing. He's a great kid, and he makes good decisions because of that. And there's going to be other guys that have circles who are a little bit crazier, who are going to make bad decisions, and their life will go a different direction. And most of the time, when you get to the part when you're about to be a pro and you're about to really get some money, people always think they have the answer at that point. And for me, I'm the person that's dealing with the ones, some listen, some don't. Mm-hmm. And I've seen some go broke, some make money, some hold money. But hopefully, moving forward, like I'm hoping that Onyeka's going to set the standard for like the rest of our kids coming behind him, because we're about to have a lot of kids get drafted. And like Onyeka just did everything right. Yeah, he did. He was Chino Hills, right? Mm-hmm.
And like that team alone, which, okay, I've seen my share of high school basketball, like I'm sure you have. That 35-0 Chino Hills team was as good as a high school team as I ever saw.
It should be one of the best ever. If anyone wants to argue that that's not one of the top 3 teams ever, it's got to be. Because you know what else? They didn't recruit anybody. It was no all-stars. It was all local kids. And again, I think that when you talk about teams that are great, like even our 2018 team that I talk about all the time, that won the national championship that year with Onyeka, with Isaiah Mobley, Evan Mobley, Johnny Juzang, Jared Lucas, Jalen Clark. The reason I call them one of the greatest teams of all time is because every single kid on that team was in our program since the 9th grade. They never wore another uniform. That's age today, it's unheard of. It's unheard of
basketball. And was that the year of the Gauntlet? Was where in Vegas? Is that where you finished it off?
That's the year when Team Takeover won Peach Jam, didn't lose, and they were calling them the greatest EYBL team of all time. And we won everything at Adidas, and we played them.
That's what you needed. You needed that one. That to me was so big. And has that stalled out? Like, is that concept going to come down a little bit further? As a matter of fact, Marley, why don't you show that one? That's the video of the Gauntlet, because that's going to be fascinating for people. I love that. I love that. They're so excited. I mean, that's like a mythical matchup, right? That's like mythical that because usually those paths don't cross between the two shoes, right?
Say it again.
Could you? I'm sorry.
That was the first time ever that Nike and Adidas have crossed since the leagues have started, like back in 2012. So that game had happened like in 2006. I want to say the Pumps played somebody, but like this is the first time it's happened in over a decade.
That's super cool because it's just like that mythical matchup.
Listen, and the crazy thing about that game is that remember, they were the unanimous champ. They won regular season. They won Peach Jam. We were the unanimous champ at Adidas. We won every Adidas event. We won the Gauntlet. We won summer championships. We won regular season. So we didn't lose at Adidas, and they didn't lose at Nike. The chances of that happening again is probably slim to none of having a unified champ that wins every event at each shoe brand. That's probably never going to happen. It hasn't never happened before at Adidas.
Yeah, and that'll go forward. And that's kind of that Chino Hills team that went, I mean, for high school, obviously, versus club, they went everywhere and played everybody and came back, came back with an undefeated record. I know as an athletic director for a long time, the biggest obstacle many times, and I forget to say this, but the biggest help to young people can and many times is their parents. Biggest obstacle now and again are the parents. And so we all have to deal with that. But so we put up a little a video because one of the parents, he spoke, he was outspoken. I know you're boys with them. I think you're friends with them, but the Lakers recently won. And so let's see what Marley made up for me.
I know deadline. What are the rumors? What are you hearing about the trade?
What am I hearing? I'm not hearing anything. I'm just saying, you know what? I told the Lakers a long time ago. If you trade my son, it'd be the worst thing you ever did. And I guarantee, they trade my son, they will never get a championship.
So you're saying LeBron James without Lonzo cannot win a championship in Los Angeles?
LeBron James without Lonzo is not going to win a championship in L.A. I guarantee that.
This historic 2020 NBA championship belongs to the Los Angeles Lakers. The Lakers conquer the bubble, and banner number 17 will soon hang in the rafters. It's all ahead as the Lakers win the 2020 championship.
All right, just having some fun. Just having some fun. You know what? I always found LeVar amusing, and the fact that he, and his boys on that same team. I actually saw them. So I live pretty close to Inglewood High School. I actually saw, I think they're playing Inglewood in like the regionals or something. And there was a play where I think one of the boys knocked the ball to half court. LaMelo threw it behind. Lonzo went off of the board back to the other brother for like a dunk. And I was just like, oh my God, we will never see three boys combine to bring the house down like that from the same family. So but we're just having some fun.
Yeah. So that I sponsored Chino High their whole high school career. So when Lonzo I got the word from Steve Bake before he got to Chino Hills. And Steve was like, hey, I got these brothers coming in and they're going to be unbelievable. He already knew. So actually me and one of my former coaches, David Grace, at the time was at Oregon State. We showed up to Lonzo's first practice as a freshman. And it was crazy. It was at 7 a.m., Chino Hills. And Lonzo's first offer was Oregon State because David Grace offered him right on the spot. At practice. Right there. He offered him right there. But it carried over because remember, then David Grace got the UCLA job.
Okay. Yeah.
And then that's how, 2 years later, he's at UCLA. And then, UCLA was a no-brainer for the Ball. So, I have a great relationship with the Ball brothers. And I was there the whole way through. And, I'm excited for them. And it's, they're going to have probably two kids that are both in the top 5.
Isn't that something? LaMelo should be a top 5 pick, right?
He'll be top 5 for sure. He might be number 1 and number 2.
Unbelievable.
So then Chino Hills is going to have possibly 3 top 10 picks in Lonzo, Onyeka, and Melo. And they got some other guys that are good too. They got Eli Scott, who's really good, and you got Cameron Shelton. You got the other Ball brother at Pepperdine who jumps up the gym. I mean, they have other guys that have a chance of being really good too. So that team is going to be historic by the time it's all over.
To me, they already are. I argue them for the greatest high school team, like I argue my boy Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is the greatest player in the history of basketball. I don't take it back either. I'm
my mouth shut on that one.
79-2 in high school, 88-2 in college, 6 NBA titles, and he scored the most points, which is the whole point of the game. So that's my guy. That's all. All right. So I got a question for you. Where are we going with high school basketball? You have different things coming. You have potentially that may return to a situation where the NBA drafts directly out of high school. You also have these prep schools that are providing an opportunity for players to go and play, but then they don't play against high schools. And then, of course, you might leave high school, and instead of going to college, you might go over to Europe or overseas to play. It's confusing, and it's hard to follow a player's career, which is where we all do. We want to follow that team or that in that sense of community that comes around a high school. I don't know. You're closer to it than anybody. What do you see? Where are we going with high school basketball?
Now, this is the problem. So you have COVID now, and then now that you're putting almost all kids in a distance learning environment. It's a major problem because before the NCAA was really against the prep schools and really against online learning. Now, when the whole general population is on online learning and becoming comfortable with online learning, it becomes, this is going to be a very chaotic situation.
Yeah.
I mean, to be honest with you, it's before the online learning was really looked down upon. They didn't want that. Like, they were really trying to get rid of it because they just didn't know what was going on. There's so many variables that you can't control with online learning. You don't know who's doing it, who's taking tests. This is so hard to monitor online learning. Now with this COVID thing and the country becoming comfortable with, at-home learning, and who knows when we're getting out of it. Like, we're in Riverside and we just went back a notch. We were red and now we're going back to purple, which means our kids aren't going back to school. They were supposed to. Now they're probably not. But now that everyone's getting more comfortable with Zoom and with online learning and all these different things, that's just going to make this whole situation way more chaotic. Because think of a guy like my kid, Issa Silva. Issa was at Jesuit, committed to Stanford. He's got a chance to start right away when he goes there. Let me ask you the question, like, does it make sense for him to play basketball March to June? Like, they're going to be in school already. Like, you also have, you risk a chance of injury. There's so many different things. If you play a normal high school season, you get hurt in February, you can recover and go to college and do whatever. You play CIF season in March. That's risky for a guy like that who's trying to be a professional. So my point to you is that what does he do? He transfers, he goes to prolific prep. He's going to play a season like normal, be done in February or whatever, have some time to rest and check into Stanford.
Yeah.
And it's not like he's a dummy. He's an academic kid.
Yeah. That's what you would do, and that's what most of us would do for our own kid. But it's just it's tough to see that part of, because high school sports are that community building, and so that's that's what we got to deal with. I often say to like people about my age or so, it's like, wasn't drafted into a war, didn't really live through a serious depression, you didn't live through any pandemic. All of a sudden, this is our burden now. This is our burden that we're going to have to do something to bring this country out of this, so we can hand off this idea and this opportunity to our next generation. And there's just going to be some learning curve here.
It's going to be fragmented either way. I mean, because again, now that we're becoming comfortable with distance learning, which to me, like, my kids are going through it. Like, my daughter's at Roosevelt High School. She's a 4.7 student. Like, what I'm telling you is like, she's not, I don't want to say she's not learning anything, but I need her in school.
Yeah.
I don't need her on the computer, Zoom in, like whatever. Like, that doesn't make, there's no way you're learning what you normally learn when you go to school. And there's certain social things you're learning when you go to school. And there's things that you need to be present and dealing with other kids to learn how to live your life. Forget about just doing books.
Right.
It's how to live life. So the problem you have now is that now that people are comfortable with this distance learning, it's going to make prep schools and situations like that more attractive.
Yeah, it is. It is. I'm uncomfortable with your daughter having a higher GPA than I had points per game average as a junior on the JV team. The heck. Hey, we got some questions we usually ask our high level preps to Olympians, but we want to learn a little bit more about you before we let you go, if you don't mind. So here we go. What's your favorite and what's your go-to shoe, especially if you're going out in a social situation? Your go-to tennis shoe.
My go-to tennis shoe?
Yep.
like probably, and I hate that. Well, it's either gonna be an Ultra Boost or Easy.
Okay, so we had to get that one out of the way. What's the first pet you ever had, and what was his name?
Dog, Dana, German Shepherd.
Nice. All right. What's your favorite sports team of all time, professional?
I'm a Dr. J fan, man.
So 76ers, or are you going Kentucky Colonels?
No, I'm going 76ers because I'm probably on the younger part of his time, but you know, I'm a Julius Erving guy, so I'll go Sixers.
Dr. J. Oh, you were going to argue him as the greatest, weren't you? I got you.
No, I wouldn't argue him as the greatest, but I mean, he's just a guy in my time that I loved. You know,
he was. I just remember being a kid, waking up one morning and seeing him at the NBA ABA All-Star game, jumping from the free throw line and going like, "Okay, that TV's broken." Like I could not believe anybody could do that. That was awesome. Did you have a nickname when you were a kid?
Everyone just calls me Tope. My name's Etop, but it's spelled with an E, but it's pronounced like with an A and with the E in the end, so people just call me Tope.
For Tope, how about a favorite board game?
I like Monopoly.
Okay, that one seems to win. What's your favorite main dish?
Lobster.
Ooh, yeah, that one's ranking too. Favorite dessert?
There's this thing that I really like. I'm older now. I'm 51, so you know, I gotta watch. I'm trying not to eat sugar at all. I lost like 20 pounds, so I'm trying to do the no sugar thing. And there's this one thing that I love to eat that I can't eat, but I really shouldn't. And it's like one of those. It's like that. It's like a cookie with ice cream, but it's like it's not a brownie. It's like this cookie. It's like a tan cookie that I love, but if I eat it, I'll die. So I can't.
That's a good way to diet. If I eat that, I'll die. How about you got a favorite movie of all time?
Oh, probably have to go Scarface. Probably Scarface.
How about a favorite, like either musical group, MC, or any group? Who do you go to?
Listen. During the important times of my development as a young man, which was obviously high school, going into college.
Sure.
I'm a New Edition guy.
Oh, nice.
Bobby Brown, man.
That's coming strong. That's the first time somebody claimed New Edition. He broke new ground. I like that.
That New Edition was our, like, you know, that was our Drake.
Yeah, I get it. Oh yeah, they were coming. They came strong.
If it isn't love,
my wife's in the same. She's already busted it out.
Yeah, Marley, keep going.
We're gonna get flagged for music out that we don't know.
Yeah, we're getting flagged for music. Huh?
Hey,
favorite author or book? And
you know, like I'm gonna say, like, the author of the book is Barack Obama. I don't know what the name of it is, but Barack's book.
His most recent one. How about you got a favorite pro athlete of all time besides Dr. J?
So, you know, I have a couple. So I was a Steelers fan. So I was like Steelers, Franco Harris, Bradshaw, you know, Mean Joe Green. So I love the Steelers.
All right.
I'm Dr. J. And, you know, I'm like everybody, man. I like Michael Jordan. You know,
sure.
And I respect LeBron's sportsman. I think LeBron as a sportsman is the best.
I respect you. I'm glad we got him this way. Our dog is on his last legs, but he was named after Buck Magic Lennon when he goes by. So that's our guy. And do you have a quote that you lean on either to motivate yourself or to motivate your the young men that are in your care?
Well, my new quote that I like, I have a lot of them, but my new one is being comfortable, being uncomfortable.
It is. This is the place we live in right now.
I just love that for anything.
Yeah.
If you can find comfort in being uncomfortable, that's when you can excel.
I love it. I love it. When I dove in and saw some of the work you're doing, I really did. I got emotional about it because it's powerful what you're doing, and that's not even what I'm talking about on the basketball court. It's off the court, and so we find you an admirable person, and thank you for doing that, and certainly thank you for spending your time with us.
Anytime, man.
Excellent. All right. You know it. Thanks, Etop. Appreciate it. That's a good man. Doing the work. And we need that. Okay. Again, we're celebrating 4 birthdays. It's fun. And hopefully you enjoyed that, okay? All right. From what I understand, yeah, Dodgers are up 15-1. All is right in the world. We're hanging the 17th banner, and Dodgers, come on now. All right, let's do it. Let's do it. What do we got left, Marley? Just kicking it out?
I'm going to show his commits that he showed, and then Box Cobbler it out.
Excellent. All right, a little more from the Compton Magic, and then Box Cobbler, Buck, and we're out.
You see, it's not all fire and brimstone down here. Sometimes it's a cool fire, as like that program on the podcast called Sports Stories with Denny Lennon. Go watch it. And don't forget to vote.
Thanks for watching and listening. Sports Stories with Denny Lennon is produced by me, Marley Rice, and Christine Jinbo, and edited by bad boy Bobby McCall. Original music courtesy of Lennon Music Production, and original images courtesy of Sienna Lennon Photography. A big thank you to all of our contributors of the show. Sports Stories with Denny Lennon is a production of Sports Stories Inc. and available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, YouTube, or wherever you watch and listen. Make sure you press that subscribe button, give us a review, leave a comment. It will really help us grow the show. And you know what else will help us grow the show? Head on over to patreon.com/Denny Lennon to get some never-before-seen videos, pictures, interviews, and so much more. We are all over social media and constantly sending out clips on Facebook, conducting fun polls on Twitter, going live on Instagram, and more. To find all of our social media links, head on over to sportsstoriespodcast.com. SSDL proudly supports the My Stuff Bags Foundation and the Heroes Movement. Links to how you can support and help these foundations can be found on our website. We also want to give a big thank you to all of our partners of the show. So, as Coach Lennon would say, any questions, comments, or concerns, you can email me, Marley, at info@sportsstoriespodcast.com. We want to thank all of our followers and listeners, and we will see you next time.
Check it out, Buck.